Being recorded. Good afternoon. I will call to order this hybrid work session of the Clark County Commission on Aging. It's September 21st, 2022. And welcome everybody from the far reaches of this wide world. Before we begin, I'd like to share some hybrid meeting reminders. Please keep your microphones muted when you are not speaking. And for those in the room, you need to press the button on your microphone to speak and press it again to mute. The light at the bottom of the mic turns green when unmuted and red when muted. So we'll get started today. We have Rose, which is lovely. We are pleased to welcome Rose Newberry of DUDEC, who will be sharing an Aging Readiness Plan update with us. And for the past month, Rose has been working with the Aging Readiness Plan Subcommittee, which Chuck, Franklin, and Sue, thank you so much, and our wonderful staff members, Jenna and Susan, to envision the work that will take place over the coming year. So, Rose, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. You can see what we're talking about in the agenda. So we'll just get rolling. Thank you for having me today. We're really excited to be working on this plan for Clark County. So first, since I haven't met many of you, I want to make sure that you got to know me a little bit. I'm Rose Newberry. I live in Portland, so very close to Clark County, but in Oregon, and we're really excited to work on this. I'm going to be the project manager from the DUDEC side, with a couple other experts on our team spanning transportation and hazards, and many of the other sections that the plan covers. And I'll be the main point of contact for the larger team, and probably the face you see the most, either on the computer or when I get over to the county for in-person events as well. So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of what's going to be happening in 2022. So the first big main task that my team has, and working really closely with staff on this, is understanding what's happened in the past 10 years as a result of the 2012 plan. This includes looking at the strategies and understanding if they've been implemented, and if so, if they were really successful, or if not, why not. A big part of this is working with stakeholders, since a lot of the plan is implemented by folks that are not county staff, but maybe partner agency staff, CTRAN, and cities and towns across the region. So working with them, and then also, again, working really closely with Jen and Susan on staff to understand what's happened on the county side. So that will take us mostly through the end of the year. And then once we understand what's happened, the plan can really do a chart forward. The other thing we're working on, and I believe it's sent out to you, is outreach to stakeholders. I'll talk about a little bit more later, but that will give us the broad vision so that in 2023, we're ready to really start writing the new plan, because we understand what's happened in the past and the vision from our stakeholders. So like I said, for strategy review, the first thing we've been doing, we have a very big Excel table that Jenna was kind enough to make, and we adapted, that has every single strategy in it. And so we've kind of looked over it just to get a broad feel for what's happening. And what we have found, I think that's the most important, is that there's a lot of different players in this plan. It works across agencies and cities. And so we're really focusing our outreach efforts to reflect this and make it a really meaningful plan that functions countywide. And then the sticky bits, or the other harder things we found in this plan, is that because it has so many implementers, we're going to have to talk to a lot of people. And so you'll see reflected in the stakeholders that staff sent out yesterday afternoon. There's a lot of people to talk to, which is exciting. And a big goal of the plan is making sure that everyone that's involved or called out in the update is really ready to implement that moving forward. But I'll pause there. That was a lot Does anyone have any questions before I start talking about outreach and stakeholders? Awesome. So the next little piece I have, we've hinted at this, is that stakeholders are going to be a big piece. Yesterday, you should have seen that list of focus groups right there on the screen. And we have broken it down into groups that it's roughly associated with a chapter in the plan. And then we know which policies they implement. The purpose of these focus groups is going to be doing a broad look and really understanding what the plan should be doing moving forward, what the broad goals are, and really creating that vision. We will also be following up with staff individually with many of these people to have more in-depth, weedy conversations about the 2012 plan and what's happened. But the purpose of the stakeholder meetings, or the focus group meetings rather, is to really get a broad vision and understanding of what this plan needs moving forward. I don't think I need to say, but very clearly the world is different than it was 10 years ago. And I think understanding both great success that happened in the 2012 plan and things we can build off of, but also just responding to a much different world. I think these focus groups will really help us hone in on what the vision and needs are for the next plan. At the end of this list, you'll also see some interviews, and those will be more one-on-one, in-depth conversations with the Cowlitz Tribe, Department of Public Health, and ASW, the Area on Aging rather. And that is to, again, get those really fine talking points and making sure that this plan is just infused with a lot of local knowledge, and we're understanding kind of any barriers to implementation and how the plan is or maybe isn't working for the county thus far. And then we'll have in 2023, if we didn't talk about the focus groups, much broader public meetings. And the purpose of the public meetings is more for general people of the public that maybe don't implement the plan, but really benefit from it and still have opinions on what it needs to do, to be able to respond to some strategy ideas, look at our new strategies, and provide feedback on how we think the plan is going to implement the vision moving forward. So they'll be timed in the project after the focus groups, so after we've really defined a vision, but before there's a draft plan. So they'll be used kind of to infuse flavor into the plan and think about if the way we've structured strategies are really hitting the needs that they perceive. So again, there's kind of three big buckets: those focus groups for the vision, the interviews, and then the public meetings themselves. Anyone have any questions or comments on the engagement?
Rose, this is Chuck Green. I have a question on this. I know this is kind of the brainstormed list. How are you planning to get down to what's in your scope in the public engagement plan?
So we built some flexibility in our scope. And for those of you who have read the JUDIC scope of work, we initially thought we were going to do a lot more one-on-one interviews. And I think when we really started working on this with staff, we found a greater need for focus groups. And what that's going to mean kind of on the back end is that we're going to do more focus groups, and that staff has graciously offered to help us a lot on the more of the interview and more of the one-on-one, reaching out to folks to talk about what has happened in the past 10 years, so benchmarking individual strategies. We'll have some support on staff on that to be able to focus more on the focus groups. Does that answer your question, Chuck?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I've got just a question as well. I noticed the community engagement and all the listing of organizations. I assume as you go through the process, you'll just add to that? Is there a cutoff or anything like that? Or are you only doing so many, or do you run out of energy?
There's not a cutoff. So what you'll see is that the Green Hunters and community engagement is one group. There is a number somewhere in the universe that is too big for a focus group. But what we've been doing is working with staff and making sure we kind of have right-sized it, that we feel that this list reflects people and organizations that would be important in the visioning, especially those that are familiar with the last plan, the implementation of it. And then if we find more folks, I think we can talk to them one-on-one, and they'll certainly be involved in that last list for the broader public meetings to be made aware of the plan that way. So it is a living list. We don't have a hard number on focus group attendees, but we are trying to think about who is the most useful and not needlessly overcrowding those groups.
Thank you, Rose.
Of course. Anyone else before I move on to my last little bit? Yes.
Yeah, Rose, I was wondering, I know that some of the groups that we have been working with, interacting with, both for our fireside chats and for our sort of larger surveys that we've done, that some of the groups are hesitant to, I guess, to engage with individuals or companies or groups that they're don't necessarily know. And so we've had bridges, we've had like the public health and things who have helped us reach out to those. Is that something within your strategy too, that if you're not getting those, because we do want really broad representation, that if you're unable to, or perhaps us work with you to understand those connections, is that something that you've been thinking about?
Yeah, we find that a lot in our work, as much as I love being an consultant, not everyone wants to talk to me directly and needs a little bit more work. Again, staff has been amazing on this plan so far, and I think will continue to be amazing in helping make those connections and ensuring that happens, because we see that in every plan. We often need to find those bridges, those community leaders that will help us reach out to those folks. So yes, it's definitely on the radar. And again, just a big shout out to Susan and Jenna, who are helping make sure that we're not limited by our scope and missing anybody in that effort.
Thank you.
All right, and then
Any more questions, any?
And then I know this is a lot to digest, but the homework assignment that I have for you moving forward is to digest this very long list and let us know if you think that we missed anything, or if you think that a group maybe doesn't need to be in a focus group but should just be in the more broad public. Really interested to hear feedback on the makeup of these groups. And then for everyone here, you're of course invited to be in these focus groups. So thinking about the topics and any focus group that you would like your name added to be a part of that focus group.
Excuse me, Rose, I have a question. This is Franklin Johnson. Do you have any projection of about how long you plan to spend with each of these groups? And do you plan to overlap or have more than one group in any particular interview?
We do not plan. So I don't plan. I plan on each focus group. So let's say community engagement to be one session. So not overlap. People can, and I think you'll probably see a little bit of overlap, certainly the area on aging. They can overlap between groups, but I will be with one group at a time. Generally, we find that between the 1 and 2 hours works pretty well. Otherwise, you get a little fatigued. But these focus groups will have agendas and will have an activity to go over to focus that vision and conversation. And then almost all of these participants will have some sort of follow-up because we need to, what we're not going to be focusing on the focus group meetings is that strategy implementation. This is going to be a much more broad meeting. So we'll be talking to again, if we need feedback on implementation, if staff doesn't know offhand what they've been doing in the past 10 years in regards to the aging plan.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I had, but I'm here as long as you need me to answer any more questions or talk about cool things in the plan.
Well, thank you, Rose. Any other comments or thoughts from anyone on the commission?
Just excited that we're starting this. Looking forward to more engagement and more updates.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Rose. And I guess we're going to be moving on, right? So we're going to move on. We would like to talk about the August 17th meeting note review. Are there any suggested changes to the work session notes? Okay, any suggested changes to the regular session notes? I'm not hearing any. Okay. Now we're going to reach the next agenda item, which is the 2022 Silver Citizen Award Subcommittee. And Larry is going to talk about the, share his thoughts about the nominee. The committee was made up of Larry, Mel, and myself. And Larry, if I could turn it over to you.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to serve on committees that look at folks providing service, volunteer service for our community. I've always enjoyed that. Over the period of time, when I was in city council and a couple other organizations, there's always a pleasure. It made you feel good to have folks come in front of you that would candidates for awards, because it makes you feel good about your community. And I say that because often, if you read the papers and so forth, you hear a lot of negative things, and there's so many positive things that go on in the community and people doing good things. So it was an honor to serve in this particular committee with Mel and Cass. As I said, I've served on several different committees, and it really gives you the committees I've served on previously, some couple nonprofits. I served on the Marshall Leadership Award, which is a younger crowd, but it really makes you feel good because they're 35 and younger and already are focused on volunteer efforts, and you hope they continue that past 60. So I feel good about the seniors and the care that they're given. This time around we had 9 nominees, actually had 10 because we had a husband and wife group in there as well. The other thing that was very helpful, I think Mel and Cass will make some comments afterwards, but the nominations, there were 4 criteria, and it really helped guide me as we reached a consensus, if you will, on who should be the nominee for 2022. Individuals must be 60 years of age or older and a resident of Clark County. And that made a difference because out of the 10 individuals we have, there was a good spread. I think the oldest we had in there was 85, and the youngest, I think, was in about 64. So it made a difference because you're looking for the contribution after 60. Realize that many of these have probably made huge contributions before 60 in their community. Major emphasis should be placed in contributions to the community made by the individuals after reaching age 60, which I just mentioned. Third one, individuals must have an enhanced community through their life's work, engagement of others, volunteerism, and other impactful acts of service to the community and age groups. And then service in any field of endeavor must be considered education, radio, television, business, healthcare, music, journalism, faith-based athletics, politics, and volunteers. So that's a whole wide range of volunteer services. And to be honest with you, if we didn't have any volunteers in any of those organizations, they wouldn't exist, especially seniors, because they're the ones out there providing the volunteer work, and for good reason. Many of them are retired. The place I live at now is a retirement center, and they encourage volunteerism. They encourage the seniors that live there to get involved with a food bank, fish, and so forth, which is really good to see, to keep seniors active, because they have so much to contribute. So we went through the whole list and had a friendly discussion of each of the 10 and talked about their criteria. One of the things that I found, and Cass made a comment about it as well, is it's also important who does the write-up, because the write-up becomes very key. That's what you're seeing. You're not interviewing the individuals. You're looking at the write-up, and some, to be quite frank, are very good writers. Some are not very good writers, and it does make a difference, especially the words that are used. And all of them, to be quite honest, were well written, but some of the writers, especially for the nominee this year, were well written, and I'll read you some extracts from that. So we had a discussion and went back and forth and talked about the contributions and so forth and where we were, and then we got down to 3, and then we narrowed it down to 1. And we selected 1, and to be quite honest, I'm fortunate to know at least 5 of the nominees. I've bumped into them along with my travels with the city and their contributions, so I'm familiar with them, especially when it comes to food banks and fish and so forth. So the individual that we selected is Catlin Smith. And I won't, well, I will tell her age. She's 72. She's been very active in a particular community, and has been active in the Rotary Club. She's been active in Dining for Women, national organization she helped create it. And you look at the diversity, too, because a lot of folks sort of focus on one area like food bank and so forth. Catlin focuses on several different areas of enjoyment for her and satisfaction. Fish Pantry downtown, that's a downtown fish pantry. She's been active. She's been the chair of that organization for a number of years and helped make that a very viable pantry. It's the largest pantry out of the 22 in Clark County. Catlin works, actually did some work also for the food bank, which is a separate organization, collects the food and distributes to other food pantries. And she has created with the fish a traveling food distribution truck by Will that travels around, purchases the truck, picks up the truck and so forth, goes to various areas so you can outreach, because many of the individuals, especially seniors, don't have the transportation, and they may be on a verge of living by themselves and need a food box and so forth, so that truck comes out there. She also is active in a church, volunteers, active in Martin Luther King Elementary School, so she's into that area. So she's in the religious side, she's in the food bank side and food distribution. She's in the politics, she's in the larger organizations and does projects for the Rotary Club. I wanted to read the last thing because we just talked about being skilled in writing, and I felt the Catlin nominator wrote. And I felt that was very key because there's some very good words in there. And he says, it takes several talents to lead an organization and to expand as dramatically and effectively as Fish of Vancouver. It takes vision to see what parts of our community are underserved. It takes idealism to create a culture in the organization that values volunteers and donors. Many volunteers at Fish have been there for 10 or more years. It takes a collaboration and diplomacy. Fish now partners with the Green Bag Project to collect food neighborhoods by neighborhood as well as other organizations. It takes strategy and patience to build a new food pantry model that emphasizes personal choice, or to build an entirely mobile program to take services out into the community. Catlin devotes dozens of hours each month to fish, including leadership, governance, and strategic planning, human resources, grant writing, food raising, and communication. And of course, these skills carry over to other different organization belongs to. So I'm really excited. And unfortunately, I know Catlin Smith, and she's just a delightful person, a great community person, and a great volunteer. And as I said, you look for those volunteers that don't sit up on the front porch in the rocking chair, that get out and still get out and do things and get involved and making sure that the community is well served and taken care of. So Catlin is an outstanding choice. Cass, Mel, anything you want to add?
Yeah. We had 10 candidates, like you said, and any one of them I would have been very happy to have as the nominee. And it just came down to the things that they did, and Caitlin was head and shoulders above everybody else. It was close there at the end, but we were all almost immediately in agreement as to what it was, so that she would be the nominee. But a lot of very good people doing a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, thank you both, Larry and Mel. Yeah, it was, we had a really great conversation, and to see the breadth of the work that's being done by aging adults in this community is absolutely incredible. So this was a tremendous experience. Would anybody from the commission like to ask any questions? Yeah.
Let me just add one other thing, and then Mel and Cass sort of alluded to it. They're all winners. I mean, I hate the word winner and so forth. They're all just super folks. As Mel just said, any one of them would be just great for 2022. But, you know, you had to pick one, and you'd sort of pick one that sort of stands out. But I just wanted to say that. They're all just wonderful people, and hopefully they'll be nominated again. So, especially the one that's 85.
Chuck, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I just want to echo this. This is a pretty impressive list. I also note that one of the nominees is a former Commission on Aging member. But I will be saying a few words about Catlin during a regular meeting when we are taking kind of a formal approval action. But because as some of you know, my wife is on the steering team for the Clark Neighbors Food Project, or the Green Bag Project. So I reached out to them for what they thought about Catlin, and actually didn't need to do much because I've already heard so much about Catlin from them over the years. So just want to thank the subcommittee for sorting through these pretty impressive list of nominees. And I want to just fully support Catlin as the recommended recipient.
Thank you so much, Chuck. Anyone else have any comments or questions they'd like to ask? Does anyone see any hands up anymore? No? Okay. I scroll through. Wonderful. Well, Chuck, we really look forward to hearing your comments in the next session, where we'll vote for approval of our nominee. So that's wonderful. Well, our next item is the public comment debrief. And Jenna, might you be able to share any public comment that we've received?
Sure, thanks. So you all may have seen our email that went out yesterday, but in case you didn't have a chance to look at it, we have received and been copied on a couple of emails from some folks over in Cascade Park Village who have some concerns around a City of Vancouver transportation project going on near there. And in case you don't know, that community is a 55-plus mobile home community. So we wanted to share that. There was also an article in the Columbian about this topic. They have definitely been reaching out to try to get press attention on it. So anyway, we shared, it's something, it was received in the Commission on Aging inbox. And maybe I'll pause there, see if anyone has any questions about it. And yeah, happy to answer questions.
So this is Chuck. I just noticed that Amy is showing up in the attendee list. So is there a way to bring her into the meeting?
I just got here, and I was having trouble with my computer. And if you can hear me right now, I guess I don't have trouble anymore.
We can
I
hear
can
you,
hear you,
thank you.
Amy.
Okay.
And so this is Chuck, I guess, while I have the floor. Normally, I know we do not take active positions on projects or comment on things. I know we've looked at design standards like the pedestrian access way code a few years ago, but I'm pretty sure it's a pretty tough, anytime you have access management needs in a kind of a built environment like that on First, in a busy environment, I know that it's a tough balancing act. I didn't get the sense from reading the comment as to whether there's expectation that we are needing or being asked to respond, or just was this for just our notice or information as she reached out to all those in the community?
Yeah, so we shared that as an FYI because was sent to the Commission on Aging. My interpretation of those emails is that they would take the help of anyone, they wanted anyone who would listen to listen, which is, I think, one of the reasons why they reached out to you all. But yes, no, there was no specific request to you all.
Yeah, Chuck, to further add to your comments, there were so many other governmental agencies and media that have, I think, since become involved since that letter was written. And I think for me in reading it, it didn't, since it's our charge, that wouldn't necessarily be part of our charge, but just the idea for maybe us to be aware of the fact that it was mentioned, the age and income discrimination against members of an aging community. So that's sort of the reason why, in talking with Jenna and Susan about it, we thought, well, let's forward the letter on so that it's something that can be in the, sort of in the front of our minds for the future, in thinking about, if these surface again. Any other comments or thoughts? So I think maybe we'll just sort of, please,
Just
Larry.
one thing, I'm glad we're doing this. I remember when we discussed whether we should be doing an award or something, and then there were some folks that sort of pulled back and said, the community has too many awards. I heard somebody make a comment. It does not have enough, enough recognition out there for folks who are doing so much for our community. So I'm just glad that we're doing it and recognize a senior over 60. It's just doing great stuff.
Absolutely, Larry. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I think we'll just sort of file this in our thoughts for the Cascade Park. So moving to other sort of updates, do we have any liaison reports?
Yes, I have a report from the Public Health.
Please, Amy,
Okay.
let us know what's going on.
What's going on is statewide and in Clark County, hospitalization rates are slowly decreasing. This is for COVID. And actually in Clark County, the hospitalization rate fluctuates. There is now an updated Pfizer and Moderna COVID booster that is a bivalent vaccine, which means it's got the part of the vaccine is directed at the COVID virus, and the other part is focused on the Omicron variants that have been most prevalent, BA.4 and BA.5. And the public health department, or the Board of Health and the public health department are advising people to get the new booster. Local pharmacies and medical providers have begun offering the updated boosters. But I can say personally that I tried to get an appointment and I was told, well, if you call back at the end of October, we'll probably be able to find a place for you. So they also suggested, this is Kaiser, they suggested I might want to go to Safeway or Walgreens. So, you know, it's the same thing that happened 2 years ago. More than enough need, not enough vaccine. And that's, oh, if you want to find a place, you can locate, there's a website called vaccinefinder.org where you can get scheduled for an updated booster, and they're being offered by the county health department. And that's my update.
Thank you, Amy. I actually had mine a week and a half ago. I had my bivalent shot, and it was fine. Everyone, it was fine. I don't have a third eye under here, as you can see. We're doing well.
You still look a little green.
Thank you, Amy. Anyone else have any reports? Yes, Chuck.
Yeah, actually, I was going to weigh in that my wife got hers a couple days ago at Vancouver Clinic as part of a regular appointment with her primary care. I obviously, where I'm at now in Laos, they don't have that, but I can report that here in Laos, people are pretty well vaccinated and boosted. So the government's done a great job, but I am intending to get that bivalent shot. And I keep confusing bivalent and covalent. Maybe it's because I'm such a fan of Big Bang Theory, I get all the science things confused. But I do want to note that the Accessible Transportation Coalition Initiative meeting is the first Friday in October. And so I am kind of working as a pipeline between our update to the Aging Readiness Plan and in that group. And so there's a number of members of that group who are also on that stakeholder list that Rose was presenting earlier. So I will continue to work and make sure that we have that them updated, and as well as our participants updated as we proceed forward.
Thank you so much, Chuck. I will say that for my part, I was unable to attend the ADRN meeting at the beginning of this month, but I'm going to listen to a recording. And so next month at our October meeting, I will provide a little report for that. Anyone else? Do I see any other hands? No? Am I missing any hands, or we're good? Oh, wonderful. Thank you all. And I'd also like to share that the Commission on Aging, that we sent a letter of thanks to the County Council for their support of our consultant, STUDEC, and the Aging Readiness Plan update. We received a lovely note from Chair Bowerman that said, "Dear Jenna, I ask that you convey to the Commission members our thanks for this nice acknowledgement, and I see that you have kindly sent the message to each counselor, so that was great. Those who appeared in advance to testify in behalf of Dudek Services were helpful to the process. So that was wonderful, Chuck and Franklin, and I sat there for a good 3 hours, perhaps 2.5 hours. So I just wanted to acknowledge that that our sitting there was, I think, a wonderful part of an already great process. So thank you very much. So it's just a little after 4. Is there anything else before we adjourn the work session? All right then, well, let's adjourn the work session and we'll meet you again at 4:30 for our public meeting. Thank you all.